Everyone, Sandra here, and today is day 2 of sharing David's story and more about severe aplastic anemia. Today's Saturday, and David will be entering the hospital on Tuesday of next week, so just a few days from now. For today's video, I'm going to focus on sharing exactly what aplastic anemia is, signs and symptoms, and how we came to realize that David was very sick. So first and foremost, aplastic anemia is essentially bone marrow failure. It's where your bone marrow fails to make the white blood cells, red blood cells, and platelets that your body needs to survive. The red blood cells carry oxygen throughout your body. The white blood cells help you to fight infection, and your platelets cause you to clot. So when you cut your finger, the bleeding stops. And so David's body and his bone marrow just doesn't produce those cells. So that's why he has to get platelets every 8 days in the infusion center or in the emergency room or in the hospital room, wherever we happen to be. And he has to get red blood cells about every 12 to 14 days. He just got a transfusion yesterday in the infusion center at the hospital, and it had been about 13 days since his last red blood cell transfusion. So white blood cells they can't transfuse, so no transfusions for those. But his bone marrow doesn't produce the white blood cells that he needs to fight infection. If he gets a fever, he has to go to the emergency room. And so if he has a fever of 101 or 2 fevers of 100.5 within an hour, then he has to go to the ER, and we have been there, done that. He ends up going to our local ER, then he gets transported to the Children's Hospital where he is normally seen. So that has happened. He's been transported 4 times, and that has certainly been no fun. So anyway, that's pretty much what aplastic anemia is. Signs and symptoms of aplastic anemia that we noticed occurring in David. He would complain of being cold when he should not have been cold. We would just, be outside or, be at the zoo, and he would want to have his winter jacket on when he had no need to be wearing his winter jacket. Or we'd be outside in outside our house and riding bikes and playing and everything, and he would complain that he was cold and want to just sit in the garage and be mad. And he was tired, and the tiredness got progressively worse. It started with him just being tired, and my husband and I discussing why does it seem like David gets tired so easily? Why does it seem like he needs to be in the stroller, when he really shouldn't need to be? But we just thought, this is just David. He gets cold, he gets tired a little easier. Not sure why, but, we didn't think it was something like, well, we needed to rush to the doctor, make an appointment. It was slow, and it progressively got worse. The tiredness did. And, we really started to notice it a lot more as this disease progressed in his body, where he would want to go to play at the playground, and he would be too tired to walk there. Or when he got there, he would be too tired to play. Or we went one time to fly a kite, and we took pictures, and he's being carried pretty much the whole time. It was just a lot of things like that, where he was just very tired. When my other kids wanted to run and ride bikes, David initially would want to do those things. He would want to get on his bike and ride his bike, but then he would just his mood would change, and he would be tired and cold and just sit in the garage and be like, when are we going inside? So we noticed that and that got a lot worse. Finally, when we realized something was really wrong with David, it was to the point where mornings were a nightmare. Getting David ready in the morning was horrible. There was like screaming and crying in the morning. He didn't want to take a shower, didn't want to get ready for the day. He would just throw himself on the floor. And then he would constantly be wanting someone to sit with him, constantly wanting someone to lay with him. And his activity level just really decreased. And so that's another symptom of aplastic anemia. Third symptom is something called petechiae, and that is, it looks like little pinpoint red, maybe even purple dots on your throughout your body. So we noticed these little strange red and purple dots on David's like face, and then he would get them on, or like around his ear, or even he might even have a bruise on his ear, and it was just really bizarre. And we were like, what? How do you? Who bruises their ear? And I don't know and how did that happen, but David seemed to bruise easily. That's another symptom. Bruising throughout your body, bruising very easily. That sort of goes along with the petechiae. They kind of go together. Usually when you have bruises, or when David has bruises, he's also got some petechiae. And the petechiae for him is almost always on his body. He almost always has petechiae somewhere, but it gets progressively worse throughout the week as his platelets get low. So it's like he gets a platelet transfusion, and the petechiae that he had on his body starts to get better for about 3 days, and then maybe around day 4, it's not getting better anymore, and it's just kind of like holding steady. And then around day 5, you might notice some new petechiae. Day 6, more petechiae. Day 7, more petechiae. Day 8, you're like, okay, he needs platelets. And there's more petechiae, and there'll be petechiae like all over his body, on his legs, petechiae on his arms, definitely on his face, on his chest, on his neck, petechiae in his mouth, on his gums, on his tongue, on his lips, and it'll be just like everywhere. And but when he was first sick, yet we didn't know he was sick, he would have just a very small amount of petechiae. So he would have maybe 3 or 4 petechiae on his face, around his, mostly on his face, maybe around his ear, and here and there on his face. And so that was another sign. That is another sign of aplastic anemia. So there's feeling cold, feeling tired, petechiae, bruising very easily. And so those are most of the signs and symptoms that we saw in David. And so really when everything kind of clicked in my head that something was really wrong, color change. That's color change. I started looking at David. He would sit on my lap, and I would look at his face, and I noticed that his color looked a little different. And progressively, as the months went on, I noticed that even like his gums started to look different and not pink anymore. And I would just like stare at him and just wonder, like, you know, why David looks this way, but still not thinking like, oh, there's something really wrong. Like, I wasn't 100% sure. I was just seeing it slowly progress over time, and just still didn't put everything together until one day I had to find a picture of our family, a picture that represented our family for a writing project I was going to be doing. So I started looking through pictures of our family from about a year ago, and I came across a picture of David, and he was just happy, and his color looked wonderful in the picture. His lips looked pink, and he just looked just really happy, really healthy. And then I saw a picture that Ruben, my husband, had taken of our kids about a week before. It was like a picture he took at the end of July of 2013, and I was seeing this picture during the first week of August of 2013. And I saw a picture. It was all 5 of our kids together. David was sitting in the stroller, in the front of the stroller, and he just looked so sick. You could see that his color in that picture looked yellow, and he just was like trying his best to like smile, but he just looked so sick, and that really just like freaked me out. And I called Ruben over and told him, you know, look at this. Look at these pictures. Look at this picture of David, you know, a year ago. Look at how different he looks. And look at this picture from like last week. And something's really wrong here. And I still really started to be bothered by that. And I told Ruben that I was going to make him an appointment, a doctor's appointment on Monday. And this was on a Saturday night. And I told Ruben, I'm going to make him an appointment on Monday. I'm taking him to the doctor. And then Sunday morning rolled around, and I had stayed home from church with our youngest kids because we had a virus going through our family. And Ruben went to church with our older kids. And that morning was just like other mornings where David was screaming and crying. He didn't want to get ready for the day. And then I did finally get him ready for the day. He was just sitting on the couch doing pretty much nothing, wanting me to come sit with him. And just everything clicked. And I was like, no, something is really, really wrong. David needs to go to the doctor like right now, like today. So this was on Sunday morning, and I text messaged Ruben and I told him, I'm taking David to the emergency room when you get back home. So as soon as he got home, I took David to the emergency room. At that point, David was too tired to even walk inside. So I picked him up and I sat him down, and I was just like, something is wrong. Here is what's been happening. Here's what I'm noticing at home. Right away, they took him back. And right away, the doctor noticed that something didn't look right. David did not look right. And something was really wrong. So they drew blood, and they found out that his hemoglobin was at 2. And his platelets were at 6, and his white blood cells, I believe they were around 3.3, and then there were a couple other numbers that I don't even remember right now, but one of them was probably his ANC level, which I don't remember. But I was just like, I know the hemoglobin, I know that number, I know what it's supposed to be, and I know this is not good. 2 is like not good. And so I looked at the doctor and I said, what does all this mean? What does this mean? And she looked at me and she said, I think David has leukemia. So I was just shocked, and of course started to cry. And I called my husband, and we talked and we cried, and I let him know that David was going to be transported to Children's Hospital in Chicago, and they were sending a transport team to come and get him, to come and pick us up and take us there. And so that's what happened. They came and got him. They came and picked us up. They took us to the Children's Hospital in Chicago. They started giving David blood shortly after our arrival. So he ended up receiving, I think, 4 bags of blood over that first initial hospital admission. And I think he got like 2 units of platelets during that hospital admission. His platelet number was 6. And a normal platelet number is anywhere between like 150 and 450. And so he was really low. And so that pretty much started everything. We found out that David did not in fact have leukemia while we were there during that initial hospital stay. We found out that he had aplastic anemia. And then the doctors began to look at our other kids and look to see if one of them was a match. So that is going to be it for this video. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave them in the comments, either on my blog or here on YouTube. If you have any questions about what aplastic anemia is, signs and symptoms, or any questions about David's story, or anything about what I've shared today, feel free to go ahead and leave them below. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.